Hey, welcome back, Telly Lovers. Are you ready to talk about that Luther movie yet? Put on the kettle and be forewarned because today I'm reviewing Luther the Fallen Son, and it will most definitely include spoilers. In case you're just catching up, in March, Netflix US released the 2-hour-long first of its kind Luther movie as a follow-up to its TV series, which, as it happens, is no longer available on Netflix. The TV series was well loved for its sadistic serial killers and its tortured protagonist, DCI John Luther. The dark crime series was one of the grittiest to ever darken our TV screens before concluding at the end of its 5th season. So, for hardcore Luther fans like myself, seeing Idris Elba resurrect this role was hugely anticipated. The film picks up right where the series ends after Luther caught the disturbing death duo Dr. and Dr. Lake, and also in the wake of Luther's loss of his frenemy/lover Alice. Luther is investigating the disappearance of a young man who it turns out has been killed by a serial killer named David Roby, who's played by Andy Serkis. Roby spies on people to record evidence of their deepest, darkest secrets and then uses it to blackmail them, which is unfortunate because ultimately he ends up killing them anyway. He also likes to murder people with elaborate rituals such as freezing them in ice for years and then hanging and burning them in groups. He then broadcasts his crimes for other bloodthirsty people to watch, a place that they feel warm and fuzzy for being accepted as the twisted deviants that they are. Soon it's discovered that Roby has been watching Luther for a while too, and that he's uncovered some dirt on him, which ends up landing Luther in prison. After Roby contacts him on the inside to taunt him, Luther breaks out of prison with the help of his associates. Meanwhile, there's a new detective on the case, DCI Rain, and although she's put him in his place, Luther is persistent in wanting to be the hero. He wants to stop Roby before he can kill again. Rain, though, is unwilling to take Luther seriously until Roby kidnaps her daughter. Together, Luther and Rain speak with Roby's wife, who he mutilated in a fire, and they track him to a compound in some snowy mountains, where they discover he's broadcasting his kills. There, he forces Luther and Rain to hurt each other, otherwise he threatens to kill Rain's daughter, who he's holding hostage. Meanwhile, Luther's friend and former boss Martin Schenk discovers a mole in the police department that's been working behind the scenes with Roby. In the end, Luther, Rain, and Rain's daughter are rescued in the nick of time by Schenk. And the movie ends with Luther getting a job offer by someone referred to as the Chief, presumably to become a British spy. So let's start with what I didn't care for about the movie. Let me first say that I really loved the Luther TV series, so my expectations were really high going in. And I really hate to say it, but unfortunately, I felt like the general plot of the Roby killings was a real letdown. I felt like it was just a really lackluster vehicle for Luther's return. I didn't find it to be a very satisfying story. To be completely honest, the plot is a bit cliche, and it was too similar to other shows I've seen. For example, the murders sounded a lot like the ones that take place in season 3 of the show The Tunnel. I also felt like the writing was a little off. Some of the scenes were too long and drawn out. For example, the scene showing how Luther broke out of prison should have been thrilling, but it was painfully long. A big issue for me is that I didn't feel like Roby's motives in committing the crimes and also his use of the rituals were well explained. There were so many unanswered questions, like where was the snowy place he was taking them to and why? Why did he freeze and then hang his victims? What dirt did he have on them that made them so desperate? What point was he trying to make? What was his endgame? So many unanswered questions. But by far the most problematic aspect of the plot was the amount of suspended disbelief required. Normally, I like to allow for some creative license, but it felt like every turn of events was pretty unbelievable. From Luther's prison break to his evasion of the police despite driving his beat-up car all over Europe, to Rain knocking down a man twice her size but Luther being unable to bring Roby down himself, to Luther pursuing Roby despite his injuries in that crazy car scene, and to Roby being trapped in the frozen ice while divers can penetrate that same ice to save Luther. It just stops feeling very realistic after a while. Overall, I was disappointed that in a full 2 hours of a film and his namesake, there's very little to do with Luther ultimately. Yes, there is the redemption story of him going from disgraced to valued, but he himself doesn't evolve or progress much as a character, and we see him in the same place that he's always been, secretly supported by some and vilified by others. Unfortunately, the plot doesn't do his character justice. What's more, in this movie, he's kind of a one-dimensional hero rather than touched by the darkness that we've seen him to be in the past. I think a big part of this is that there's no foil to him. In this series, characters like Zoe and Alice helped us delve into his psyche a bit more and it created a feeling of internal conflict. But not only are those types of characters absent here, they're really not even mentioned. Luther does refer to his wife a couple of times, but given Alice's death in just the last season and the isolating effect it would have had on Luther to lose his last intimate human connection, it's really odd not to mention her at all. In terms of characters, add to this that this is a really male-heavy film with just DCI Rain as the female counterpoint, and that also makes it feel a little flat. Despite the movie being, in my opinion, kind of uninspired, I did enjoy what Luther does best, pulling the curtain back on the darkness of humans and their destructive potential. Andy Serkis is terrifying as Roby, and he all too well captures the character of a man who revels in causing so much pain to others. And Elba is just a perfect Luther. It's one of his best roles to date, and he just fits into it flawlessly. I just wish the script had let him rise to his full potential here. I will admit that the last portion of the film, Roby's final chapter in the mountains, was beautifully shot and full of adrenaline. The ending as a whole left a good taste in the mouth. It's so good to see Luther back in action, and it leaves us wanting more of him in his next chapter as a spy. As a bonus, I also loved hearing the remix of the theme song at the end, even though it was again very male-heavy. Having said all this, would I recommend the movie or watch it again? Absolutely. My overall feeling is that the movie is an absolute must for Luther fans, but it does have some serious flaws that I hope will be corrected in future films. Speaking of which, it seems unlikely that the producers will resurrect the series and will opt to produce more movies as sequels instead. There isn't another movie yet confirmed, but hopefully Netflix will give the green light soon, in which case we may see Luther continue to fight the good fight as a spy in a couple of years or so. I still think with a character like John Luther, a limited release series is preferable to one long movie, but I love him too much to turn down an opportunity to see him again. Right, that's me done with my thoughts on Luther the Fallen Son. Did you agree with me? What did I miss in my review? Leave me a comment below and share your thoughts. I can't wait to hear them. And while you're there, Telly Lovers, if you've enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help me grow with confidence so I can keep covering your favorite British TV shows. And I guess movies too. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely day and a big ta for now.